Hey everyone, it's Caleb with InklingsFiction.com, and today I'm going to answer the question of why should I use a web novel service or a web series service or all those places where you can put your stories online, and what's the point of that? Should you do it as an author? Does it help you at all? So, short answer, I recommend doing it. I'd say hard yes on using web novel services. There are quite a few authors who have actually made their entire author careers just because they started on those web novel services, which I think's really stinking cool. But there are the downsides as well. The downsides being that you would have all your work on all these different books online, say. You put all that work in and you don't get any money from a lot of them, depending on the web novel service that you use. There are ones that pay you. That is cool, but there is still a drawback even if they pay you. And that main drawback at the end of the day is if you put any of your stories online at any point in time, actual book publishers, they're not going to want that story. They won't want that story because they'll be like, well, it's not a new story. Everyone else has read it already, so why do we want it? And I see where they're coming from on that. Honestly, I don't agree with them 100%, and I have heard a couple places that these publishers are moving away from that entire idea, but for now, it's something that you do have to consider when you're putting your stories online. Beyond that, you have the entire thing about being a first-time author, a first-time writer even. You may have shared your story with a few friends, maybe your mom, You'll have a couple people that have read your works, maybe even a teacher who's like, wow, you should be an author. Or maybe a teacher who's like, you're a terrible writer, you should never be an author, but you know that you should be. There's always those teachers that are a little bit of poop turds. But there will be people that have read your stories and have liked your stories. But that's only this much of the world's audience, And of this much, how much can you actually depend on what they said? Are they just being mean? Or are they just being nice? And are they doing that just because they know you? So something nice about the web novel services and all those websites, that you can post your stories is that you can actually get audiences that you've never met before. And those audiences who you've never met can actually give you a nice hands-off, like, this was a really good story. I loved this story. This was like my favorite story ever. Or conversely, they'll be like, listen, pal. This part was really good. I'm not sure if you were the same author for the end, though. What happened there, And it's really nice because you'll get people that don't know you and they don't really feel obliged to be nice to you. And yeah, I know it can be a little bad, if you think about it you might get a bunch of trolls that are going to be absolute jerks to you. And honestly, that same exact experience would happen to you if you wrote a book and put it on Amazon, like if you published it yourself or if you had a publisher. You'll have jerks that will find you and be jerks. They might not even read your stories and they'll be jerks. That happens to so many authors that I know. It's sort of funny. A lot of authors actually make jokes about, yep, got my first 1-star review today. I'm a real author now. Look at that. Which I think's really funny, and it is a little refreshing once you get your first couple bad ones, especially when you can see they didn't even read your book. You're like, all right, I don't feel as bad about anything, It's really refreshing, honestly, to get a bad review, but how does getting bad reviews and good reviews and all that happen and help with your web novels, and how does it help your author career? Well, it helps you because it shows you, with both nice and mean ones, it shows you what you're good at and what you can improve on. And honestly, you don't have to take every single review into account. Again, there are the jerks who are just going to be jerks, but sometimes those jerks are actually pointing out something important. You have to weigh that yourself at the end of the day. I personally put a lot of weight behind what people said in the very beginning bits of my author career and added a lot of time to my book writing. And honestly, I've actually gotten a couple bad reviews because of the changes I made to appease the people that made the original comments. And I'm like, oi, everyone's a critic, which is honestly rather funny, but it's also annoying at the same time. And long story short, reviews is something that really helps you with your author career, and that's something that you can get so fast and so easy by using a web novel service. Another thing that is really nice about using web novel services is a lot of them will only tell you, yeah, you can write a story, but it can be up to 10,000 words, or up to 5,000, but it has to be at least 20. And it might sound like 5,000, 10,000 words is a lot, but I've actually, in one sitting, written 20,000 words. In one sitting, one day. That was a lot of words. I don't normally write that many. But what I'm saying here is you can write one of these stories pretty quick. You can have a quick turnaround, and readers will read them rather quickly. Like, honestly, all of them reading that, the whole 5,000 words or whatever, it might take half an hour. And that half an hour, that's a pretty quick read. And you might have 100 readers in the first month read that story. Say all of them leave a review. That's 100 reviews that you get. And you can really know what's working for them, what's not working for them, what's working for you. And honestly, I loved writing all these stories for all these different things because it let me see how I write. And why does that sound a little weird? Like, what do you mean? How do I know how I write? For me, it was actually a little strange. I had to walk into how I write because I spent so many years reading all these other books. So then when I started writing my first book, I was like, I'm going to emulate this author and this one. I'm going to mix them both. And it was good. It worked out, but it wasn't me. And at the end of the day, people don't want to read the same rehashed story with basically the same exact point of view, same exact things. They might want the same sort of story, but they'll want it from a totally new point of view. Or better yet, you can make up a new story that has some things that people will be familiar with and want to look for, but put a new spin on it. And at the end of the day, I mean, what makes you valuable as an author is you. You're the asset here. It's not your story. Your story is just an extension of you. It's how you see the world through your fictional creation. It's really stinking cool. And with web novels and all that, you can write 15 short stories that all encompass little bits about the whole universe that you want to write your books in. And when you do that, all these readers will become familiar with your name at some point. And with inklingsfiction.com, I have it so these readers can then go to your website or they can join your newsletter. Down the road, I'm going to have it so they can actually follow you as an author, but I don't quite have that technical expertise quite yet. Working on getting that up on the website, but that's gonna take me a little bit. But those are some of the main benefits that I find from using web novel services. I mean, it's really cool, and some of them even have it so you can get awards, like you're the best fiction author for, say, science fiction, you're the best one for romance, you're the best one for this and this. And some of them will have it so you can get these different awards, and then you can brag about it on wherever you sell your books or on your author website and whatever, and be like, look, I'm not just some fly-by-night author who just showed up. I have an award, see? And I have this one and this one. I have 6 years in a row of this award every single year. It's like, I'm really cool. I actually know what I'm doing. And a lot of authors and readers, they like to see that sort of stuff. That's the whole reason why you put New York Times best-selling author. People like seeing that, and they're like, oh, this person actually has something reputable, So that's another great thing that some web novel services will have. Not a lot of them have them, and Inklings Fiction doesn't have it just quite yet, but I'm working on getting that on it. Still deciding how I'm going to work that. It's because as you guys could probably tell from the channel age, if you're seeing this right when it comes out, it's a new channel because Inklings Fiction is a very new site. I've been working on the sort of thing for a little while. I'll probably do a video on what the entire concept for Inklings Fiction is, but that's a thing for another video. And finally, for web novels, it's just nice to figure out what readers are looking for. Because on these web novel services, you can look at all these other authors, and you can look at all of their stories. You can be like, oh, that author writes about that and that and that and that. Readers don't seem to care about the last 3, but those first 2 things that this author writes about, they really like those 2 things. And then you can be like, maybe I'll write about those 2. And you can sort of nitpick, and you can be like, all right, I'm going to write about this, this, and this. Or if you want to bring in a new trope or sort of storyline idea to the authoring world, to the world of books, you can actually sort of test run it on a web novel service. You'll have a lot of people coming in. They'll come in because it's free. Who doesn't like a free thing? And those people will look at your new thing that you want to write about, and they'll basically be the judge of, is this good or is it not? And you'll be able to see if people are going to end up looking for it, how popular it'll be, and how many good reviews you get. If you get no good reviews, all bad reviews, or no reviews at all, it's like maybe a bit of a red flag. You're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't write a whole 10,000 word book, a million word book, you know? It really helps you gauge what the market is for the books that you're going to write. And I find that to be one of the most valuable things, because I don't want to write a 100,000 word book, which I'm actually doing right now. I'm working on a book for space pirates, and I'm working on it because I've asked a couple of my readers, I've put a couple things out, and they seem to be really excited about it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try this. Honestly, if I was really wise, I would have probably put a couple of those stories online first and seen how people liked it. But I looked at the market, and it looked like it potentially could work for me. I'm sure you guys are all going to write space pirate books now. I'm okay with that, though. But it worked for me. I thought that I could probably get a niche, you know, in there, and I'm going to go for it because I sort of did that whole market research. So those are the main things for why I really like web novel services. I mean, that's basically the reason why I made inglingsfiction.com. I wanted to have it so authors could benefit from this exact sort of thing. And obviously, Inklings Fiction is going to have a lot more things down the road. Lots of other services for authors to make it as big and good as it can be. But at the end of the day, it all started because I wanted a web novel service. So thanks, guys, for watching. God put a story in every single one of us. So write on, and God bless.